Hello everyone, welcome to Martech Asia Dialogues, where we dive deep into the world of marketing technology with industry experts. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Ms. Shoma Narayanan, who is Managing Director and Head Group Strategic Marketing and Communications, DBS Bank India.
Much for having me here. Just really excited about the conversation.
So Shoma, welcome to Martech Asia Dialogues. We are excited as well to learn more about how banks are actually using Martech the right way. So if I just begin by asking, how is DBS actually leveraging Martech? And do you think it's one of the most needed technologies right now?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And see, there are two parts to it. One is the stack itself, right? And DBS, we've always been digital first. We launched the first fully digital bank in India, which was DigiBank, which is essentially bringing the entire bank to you on a mobile phone, right? And that required us, because of the whole nature of the offering, to kind of be a little ahead of the curve when it came to upgrading our marketing tech stack. Over and above that, however, it's the skilling of our resources, because it's such a rapidly evolving field that you do need to make sure that resources are always kind of up to date with with current technology, and B, how to use it to the best effect. Yeah. We of course use a huge suite of tools, and both for new customer acquisition as well as growing our existing customer base, deepening relationships with existing customers. At every stage, Martech plays a pretty crucial role.
If you could speak about more on your Martech stack, how have you created yours, the right combination of tools that work for you, like CDM, CRMs, data visualization, everything?
Yeah, so we use automation software, we use customer data platforms, there's digital asset management, customer relationship management, especially critical for a bank. And we also use marketing analytics and visualization platforms, right? So for example, we use Google Analytics, we use some of the Adobe suite as well. We use Tableau for data visualization, which is critical for us to basically look at the control towers, which kind of tell us about what's happening at each stage of the customer journey, right? What do we use this stack for? We use it for data-driven marketing. So when we are, so we collect, analyze data, we kind of gain insights into customer behavior, preferences, needs, and therefore we kind of make sure that we are coming to them at the appropriate time with the correct banking product, right? And this spans across retail, SME, and even to an extent larger corporates, and I'll come to that in a bit. We also use it for customer segmentation and targeting, because it allows us to segment our existing customer base and make sure that we have appropriate messaging to each part of the each specific customer segment. Automation helps us make sure that we streamline and make certain processes work without any human intervention whatsoever, right? So we have a lot of fairly advanced data science models, which help us identify what the next best product offering or the kind of insight that we need to give to a customer at a point. And all of this is automated, right? So it's not that a human being needs to go look at the data and decide that, oh, this customer segment is perhaps requires this particular offer, and make sure that that particular one's. A lot of that is automated. So automatically through our intelligent banking framework for existing customers, you will have the appropriate nudge presented to the customer. And then of course it's up to the customer whether or not, and we also learn as we go along. So there's machine learning and there's of course human learning as well, to figure whether the nudges we have in place, the strategies we have in place, are currently appropriate or not.
And if we go more specific with technologies like marketing automation, because as fancy as these tools may sound, what do they actually deliver what you desire? Like, can you tell us more about a specific campaign where DBS utilized marketing automation tools to engage customers and drive conversions? Were there, like, if you could give some of the examples?
Yeah, so intelligent banking, which I mentioned earlier, it's not a campaign exactly. It's something that runs through this. So if you open your DigiBank app, you'll see a section which of course has your standard banking piece, and you'll see a section with insights. When you click on the insights section, you will see tailored nudges. So I'll give you an example. Like easiest one is to, of course, give my own personal example. Like when I open my app, right? When I see my salary credit coming in, a couple of suggestions of what I could do, right? If I made a transaction and say I made one transaction twice over, right? It'll nudge me and say that, you know, is this a mistake? Have you paid twice for something by mistake? You know, then it'll give me an option saying that, oh, you received a large sum of money, right? So say one of my investments has matured, the money's got credited to my account. Yeah. It'll then look at that and say, or maybe you want to look at some investment options, right? So it's exactly like the feel. I mean, see, it may not work for a very traditionally minded customer who wants an RM to actually call and say, you know, ma'am or sir, why don't you do X, Y, and Z? But for someone who's relatively time starved, right? Or a young customer who prefers to interact with the bank digitally, does not actually want, if you see a lot of extremely digitally savvy urban younger cohorts, they don't actually want to have that conversation, right? They're very comfortable because they shop online, they listen to music online, they date online. So they don't want to have the bank calling them, right? Yeah. But they do want to manage their finances, and they do want to know, okay, what's the appropriate thing to do at which time, right? So this nudge effectively allows the customer to manage their finances with expert inputs, but at their own pace and time through a channel which they have chosen. Yeah. Okay. And while we do definitely run campaigns, most of this is kind of ongoing. So our customer lifecycle management programs are ongoing. Intelligent banking is always on, and so on.
There was this campaign called DBS Sparks. So how do you like utilize a combination of customer data? Like I really want to understand, how do you utilize a combination of customer data, creative assets, and targeted messaging to drive engagement with the bank's mobile app?
DBS Sparks is a web series, and that's also, it had a very interesting, it kind of brings the world of banking alive for customers, potential employees, prospective customers. Essentially, it's a web series that's available for everyone to view. It's a very good question, Ojasvi, because it brings me to the point of, see, Martech will give you data and allow you to target the customer at a point that you feel you want to deliver relevant messaging. However, it won't tell you what to tell them, right? It'll give you insights, exactly. But at some point, someone needs to think through and say, okay, what do I want to say to Ojasvi at this particular point? I can see that she's done this, this, and this. What does that tell me about her? And how do I put forth relevant? And that's where the creative element comes in. So marketing, like always, while it's becoming more and more of science, it's still a delicate balance between an art and a science. And the cusp is where the actual magic happens. You know, getting the relevant, correct, exciting message, because you may catch the person at exactly the correct time, but if the messaging isn't something that catches their attention, then you've kind of lost the battle, right? So messaging is super important over there.
Okay, and how do you like drive conversions, or were there any evident results, if you want to speak on the percentage increase in click-through rates after all these initiatives?
So we've recently run a fairly large above the line campaign, which had a mix of traditional, digital media and so on. And we've actually seen almost actually over 90% increase in app installs, right? The campaign is currently live. So it's actually quite, so that's the beauty of digital marketing. So the pure digital campaign, so the one I just spoke about is a mixed campaign because it has traditional and digital as well. Those are tougher to attribute, right? Because last click attribution is always simpler when you try to do a full market mix modeling and look at, you know, every point the person has been exposed to some kind of communication advertising. It's difficult to, as in, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to attribute exactly the spends to the final customer. But when you're looking at pure digital acquisition, we actually have very robust models for each of the channels or each of the strategies that we run. So whether it is on search, whether it is pure performance marketing campaign on social media, you can actually look at each of the strategies and say, this is the cost per lead I have achieved through the strategy, and this is the cost per acquisition that I've achieved. So I'm not getting into numbers because obviously a lot of that is internal information, but the specificity that you can get down to is quite fabulous. What you can also do subsequently is you look, suppose you have an acquisition strategy and you see that it's giving you a fairly low cost per acquisition, and you have another acquisition strategy which is giving you a higher cost per acquisition. You may say that, okay, let me stop the higher cost per acquisition one and stick with the lower one. But then what you do is you track those customers over a period of time and see who is maintaining balances with you, who is growing, who is increasing their share of wallet in the sense that they are taking additional products from you. So not only are they holding a bank account, but they're also perhaps taking a credit card or investing with you, and so on and so forth.
So question, you mentioned about training the employees as well. So additionally, it can be challenging to train staff to use each such platform effectively. So how are you doing that, and how are you building your Martech team? And also, what skills are actually required to be called a Martech expert like Shoma Narayanan?
I honestly wouldn't call myself a Martech expert. I think I'm a good marketer, but the actual Martech experts in terms of technology are the young guys and girls in the team who run this. You're using a plethora of platforms.
Exactly.
Everything doesn't always talk to each other. So the platform you use when you're onboarding a customer, and sometimes there are even regulatory reasons which don't allow you to transfer information in or out, right? So once someone is on my platform, I may not have the same degree of information that I have on what they're doing on other platforms. But what we do have is one, like I mentioned earlier, we have a very robust data science team, right? And that's something, it's not something that, we build up over the last year or two. So one of the advantages that banks have is that we've always had a lot of access to customer information, even in the pre-digital marketing days, right? Yeah. Yes. So unlike, say, if you look at retail and e-commerce, right? The entire business model is very different. For banks, we've always looked at data in depth. It's been called different things, but we've always had data scientists and whatever the previous avatars were working for us. So we had a very robust data science team. That's one. Secondly, because we had the advantage of being a slightly late entrant into the Indian banking scene, right? So DigiBank was launched as a fully digital bank, unlike a lot of other banks who were traditional banks and who then launched an app which had to sit on top of their traditional systems, right? So that was another advantage we had. Thirdly, we are headquartered in Singapore. Typically, we don't use a lot of local solutions or systems. We use the same Martech platform system solutions across all the markets that we operate in. So if X business is using Y platform, that's the same platform that we use across. And that helps us leverage of a lot of expertise that our Singapore office has. And similarly, there are learnings in the India market which we feed back to other countries. So DigiBank was launched in India first and then in Indonesia. So there are a lot of learnings we had here, which we then fed back, which were then used when the Indonesia launch happened and so on. On training, again, we have a pretty good like a pipeline of talent, so to speak. And a lot of learning actually happens on the job, and we supplement it with formal training programs, of course, as and when platforms upgrade or change and so on. And we do reach out to a regional team which has super specialized people who work in particular areas for help. We also reach out to the Martech providers for their expertise as and when required. Yeah.
So let's talk about how DBS is being consistent in its marketing across channels. So what is DBS Bank's approach to omni-channel marketing, and how has it incorporated technology such as cross-device tracking, push notifications, as you spoke, and in-app messaging into its Martech initiatives?
So we have kind of what we've done is we have prioritized channels based on customer interaction engagement in the past. And that, so as you kind of look at your data and you learn, you also figure what gives you the best reach, the best open rates, how do you prioritize? So again, at this point, I'm speaking mainly about existing customers. So should you do an email? Should you do a push notification? Should you do an in-app message? Should you send an SMS? Should you go completely, old school and have someone from the contact center out call a customer? So at a customer level, we have kind of done this prioritization of challenges. So we have a fairly good unified view of a customer and their journey across touch points, right? This customer may, for example, call our contact center. When we launched DigiBank, we had, I think, only 12 branches in India, which then grew to 30, but we now have 530 branches in the country, right? Because there's a recent amalgamation of Lakshmi Vilas Bank with DBS, and that significantly expanded our footprint. Customer may decide, for whatever reason, to walk into a branch and do one transaction at the branch, right? So we look at all of that and make sure that the messages that actually go to you or to me or to any customer are relevant to the context, they're personalized and they're consistent. It's not that through one channel I'm selling something and through some other channel I'm trying to say. My idea is to go with the next best conversation for that particular customer. So essentially looking at a segment of n equal to 1. Then cross-device tracking, I think you asked about. So we have deep integration with certain mobile attribution tools. So AppsFlyer is one of them that we use. So that helps us with the cross-device tracking. And that's especially relevant when you're doing NTB acquisition, new to bank acquisition, because someone may be exposed to your advertising, may kind of start the journey, but whatever, I mean, they were on their mobile or whatever, and then they stop for a while, move on to something else. So it allows you to retarget, speak to the same person again.
Any more tools that you like to mention?
Additionally, we are also experimenting with AI to, better personalize our message, optimize our performance marketing. So we feel that AI can help us reduce cost of acquisition, improve the quality of the acquisitions the customers we get in. And we are also using CDP to try and get richer customer insights, deliver products which are more relevant to the customers. Essentially, what you're trying to deliver remains the same, that you're trying to fulfill the customer need as soon as possible with the most suitable product. What all of these tools are helping us do is kind of pull that together and bring it in front of the customer. And then, of course, all of this fits into what we're doing overall as a brand.
Okay.
So, our brand promise is that we enable our customers to live more bankless. So if you see, finally, sometimes we get this question, why are you telling people to bank less? Shouldn't you ask us to bank more? And we're saying, no, we do want you to bank more, but you want to spend as little time doing that banking.
That was it. But before we end this interview, there's just a parting message you would like to give to all those people who are kind of apprehensive adopting this Martech as a technology.
I think the only thing I would say is that marketing is always been about innovation, trying new things, doing what's the best possible for your customer. Martech is only a way that enables you to do this much more efficiently than marketers have ever been able to do in the past. So it's something that we should be cognizant of the ramifications, but it's definitely something I would encourage all marketers to adopt.
All right. Thank you so much, Shoma. Thank you so much. It was wonderful interaction, knowing more about what DBS has been doing in the Martech space.